Hey you. So some leaked Starfield VR content exists, and this one is a complicated one for me because I've commented on leaked videos and images, but I can't be the one out there distributing it, and I can't seem to find it anywhere else on the interwebs. So I had a friend reach out to a video game attorney. They haven't responded yet, so I had to remake this whole video without the footage because I need the little bit of scraps I make from YouTube, and a takedown is no bueno. But if you're in my community, you've probably already seen the footage and comments from whoever left it because they're just out there in the open. I didn't place it there, but who knows how long it can stay there. All right, disclaimer and preface over. So there's a couple Starfield clips about 48 seconds long, and they take place in a museum about the terror of Londinium, I think is how you said, which I've never actually seen myself, but from a quick search, I think it explains the origins of xenomorphs in the game. Anywho, the character is moving his head around, waving his arms, and it looks like the greatest mob or vortex magic I've ever seen. So at that point, I start scrutinizing, looking for signs of a fake. The HUD elements were the same as the flat version, but they were a little high up on the screen. If you ever done much recording with the Quest 2 and 3, you know that what seems like it should be easily visible toward the bottom of your field of view is the first thing you notice gets cut off after you review the clip. So I was kind of surprised to see the HUD elements at all. I think it's got more to do with how the video was cropped. On Quest, you record either 1920 by 1080 if you got it set to 16:9 aspect ratio, or if you're recording with just the default settings, you get 1024 by 1024. These vids are 480 by 480, so maybe there's some identifying information that was cropped out before they started leaking this, and the result is the UI is a bit high. I think there's a good chance this may be legit. If it is, about time. Nah, but we've been waiting on this one for a while. It's a very different time than 2017 when VR was still very, very new. VR still got a ways to go, but we're at a point where it's starting to mature a bit with universal standards like OpenXR that helps folks develop for multiple platforms. Saying all that to say, we don't want to wait years anymore for titles to go with VR. But forget all that, how's the game look? Not too shabby. We're dealing with 480 by 480 video, so we can't get deep into the fidelity, but it at least looks reasonably good. It was using the motion controls because the player was twisting his hands around and looking all around the pistol they were holding. Before they switched to the pistol, they were holding a rifle, then used a quick menu to swap to the pistol, and they did it as quickly as you do on the flat version. So the hands are Half-Life Alyx style, meaning they're floating disembodied. Kind of disappointing, especially after seeing the Fallout 4 Frick mod where your hands are attached to the body's skeleton, so you see your arms when you move your hands and you actually have a body, but anything working as good is better than nothing. At one point they're holding a rifle with two hands, which is great. Fallout 4 VR shipped without that feature, and it's not very cool to aim one-handed. 2 points of contact is better for stabilization, and they got it in there. I'm really curious about the reloading though. When they executed a reload, it was as quick and smooth as an animation. They manually grabbed the magazine off the top of a particle beam shotty, reached over to the left off screen a bit, then slid a new mag in. So it's either a baked-in animation independent of your hand where you push a button and the hand just does what it's supposed to, then returns to wherever you left your actual hand at, or the players just had enough practice that it looks that way. If so, that guy is smooth. The smooth is smoother than smooth. You see it in VR shooters all the time, but because it's Starfield, it was kind of interesting to see them holding a gun in their right hand while looking at the palm of their left hand, then turning it over to look at the back. The player didn't pick up any objects, so who knows if that's a thing, but I hope it is. Placing objects in outpost building mode on the regular game is really clunky, and this will simplify that so much. Happy to report no teleportation for Locomotion was being used, even though the Half-Life Alyx shift teleportation and other options are good options for folks who are a little prone to motion sickness to have. Continuous Locomotion is the more immersive way to go, so I'm glad it's in there. I've been watching more movies than playing games in the Quest lately, so it'll take me some time to get back in the comfort zone with that, but definitely worth it in the game where there's a lot of action with the running and ducking and boosting your way through the space hood because you tried to share your Aurora with the wrong cop. The players seem to have no problem running around, spinning the other way and hauling ass when he's getting chased by the space roaches. There was nothing slow or janky about the way they did anything, but there wasn't anything especially tricky going on in the video. One video was just the player running around the museum, and the others started in some brightly lit facility, and then it looked like they walked into some floating pixie dust and teleported into a roach-infested, dungeony looking version of the facility or something. That was a spoiler for me because I was unaware you could teleport in floating fairy dust. So the shooting and reloading was the most complicated thing I saw, but swapping weapons was smooth. Taking a quick peek at a loot box as they went by, I did see them look like they had trouble turning their flashlight on. There's a quick jerking of the gun hand and they stopped for a split sec, looking like they were waiting for something to happen, and then when nothing did, the weapon jerked again and the flashlight came on. I think maybe they had to click or double click the right thumbstick to activate the flashlight, which could account for the jerky movement. I don't remember if particle weapons have recoil, but the particle shotty had 0 recoil. Could be a we'll add it in later thing, or maybe they just opted not to have it. The player threw a grenade, but it was from a dark area, so I couldn't see exactly how they did it, but but the gun raised up and it looked like it could have been tossed underhanded from a position below the weapon, which doesn't really make sense unless the shotgun itself throws grenades at short range. Have a little cartoon hand come out tossing grenades. That'd be dope. Anywho, you already know we need at least a crisp 60 frames per second for VR, and 90 would be better, but the clips were exported at 30 frames a second, so there's no way to say what the game was actually running at, but there was no lag in the movement, no hitching, and from what I could tell is likely running at a decent frame rate, which you might think could be a problem given the frame rate choices they made in the past. Alright, so update here. After I was done with this video, I got to see 3 more videos and yeah, this thing looks incredible. You can pick up objects with your hands, so get ready to start juggling sweet rolls and succulents. Now, the holding object interaction is the same as in a normal game, so even though you can grab it with your hand, it's kind of dangling like you picked it up with some tweezers, but hey, I'll take it. Not 100% sure, but I think you can hold weapons in either hand, so lefties rejoice. Maybe. I've always wondered how left-handed people play FPS games with a controller. Anyway, it makes use of the motion controllers to be able to open and close your hands by tracking if your fingers are on the sticks and buttons or not. There's probably not any functional use for that, but it adds a little immersion in games that do use it, and maybe you can use it to spice up selfies with some finger guns and thumbs down as you kneel over an enemy corpse. Cinematic cutscenes work like normal, where the camera cuts to an external view of you. Also got a little more information to clear up exactly what this is. This isn't a Bethesda created venture. This is created by a modder who I won't name because I don't need no smoke if they ain't feeling this vid. From what I've been able to see, this looks like a masterclass in flat to VR work, so I definitely don't want to get cut off from ever getting it. It's not a ton of information to extract out of these clips, but it's pretty exciting. Everything from walking up to your ship and really seeing the scale of it for the first time, to shootouts while pinned down by several hostiles, to standing in your outpost watching giant alien dinosaurs grazing in the sunset. You imagine boarding a ship with no gravity? How's that gonna work? I can't wait to see, because whatever the case, it'll be glorious. I will say this, dungeons with giant roaches popping up behind you, which is what the guy was doing in one of the clips, yeah, you can have all that. I'm gonna go ahead and skip that part because jump scares not my thing. I'm pretty hyped for a shot at Starfield in VR. I stopped playing because all my saves corrupted in the cloud and I had a dumb amount of hours in the game, so motivation to start over has not been a thing. How about a mod to fix those corrupted saves, man? This changes everything though. Starting over in VR will be a hot item on the menu for everybody that has or wants a VR headset. The other thing the leaker said that it was made last year. It's been sitting on the shelf since 2023 with no announcement in sight. Now that is diabolical, or it would be if it was announced and then sat on. I'm hoping the reason that there's no news about this out there isn't because the project is abandoned, because this VR mod is 100% needed. I've seen workarounds to get Starfield going in VR, and the hoops that you have to jump through just to get it working with a mouse and keyboard is a lot. Modding games to get them to run with several pieces of software is beyond the average person's tolerance level, especially if it's not going to be a complete experience. I don't know what's all involved for this particular mod, and hopefully it's a little closer to a Nexus mod type experience, but either way, it looks like it's a no compromise mod. It's got the head tracking, the motion controls. It looks like what a bigger game studio would come up with themselves if they committed the resource to it. Starfield in VR looks to be an experience, and it would make a lot of people happy to get their hands on it, including me. Side note, if you have a VR headset, Nintendo Labo, or Google Cardboard or something you can watch 3D videos with, you can get a good glimpse of what Starfield in VR is like. I checked out some videos by the Game Vita, and man, it's not being in full VR, but the 3D effect makes you want to play Starfield in VR immediately. I'm really hoping to see Star Citizen in VR in the not too distant future, and there's a one-man band over at Cloud Imperium Games, so I hope it's starting to get in the mix on that. Here's a taste of that. Big brownies and cookie dough Oreo shout out to the good folks supporting the Dig That and Space Sim Marts. Once again, special shout out to Almost Over for the generous donation, to my executives and everybody supporting via Patreon, YouTube members, and super chatters. My name is Dig That, and somebody needs to see this message on your dog tags. Fly dirty, citizens.